Breaking: Iran strikes Tel Aviv with hypersonic missiles, Haifa next? Tensions in the Middle East have reached a boiling point after Iran launched a direct hypersonic missile strike on Tel Aviv, marking one of the most dramatic escalations in the ongoing conflict. The attack, which Tehran has described as a legitimate retaliation, has sent shockwaves across the region, raising urgent questions about the future of stability in the Middle East and the possibility of a broader war. The incident reportedly occurred late Tuesday night when multiple hypersonic missiles were fired from Iranian territory toward Israel. According to initial reports from regional media outlets, at least 2 missiles penetrated Israeli air defenses and struck the outskirts of Tel Aviv, triggering explosions that could be heard across the city. Sirens blared as residents rushed into bomb shelters, fearing what many had long anticipated: a direct confrontation between Israel and Iran. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps swiftly claimed responsibility, declaring the strike a response to Israeli air raids on Iranian-backed forces in Syria and Lebanon. In a televised address, a senior Iranian commander stated, "This is only the beginning. If Israel continues its aggression, Haifa and other strategic locations will be next." Why hypersonic missiles matter. The use of hypersonic weapons marks a dangerous new chapter in the conflict. Unlike traditional missiles, hypersonic missiles travel at speeds exceeding Mach 5 and can maneuver mid-flight, making them exceptionally difficult to intercept. Military analysts suggest that Israel's famed Iron Dome and David's Sling defense systems may not be fully equipped to handle this emerging threat. This development raises alarms not only for Israel but for the United States and NATO as well, since hypersonic technology has been a point of contention among global powers. If Iran has indeed mastered such advanced missile systems, it changes the balance of military power in the region. Casualties and damage reports. Official Israeli sources have so far downplayed the damage, claiming that most of the incoming missiles were intercepted. However, local reports from Tel Aviv suggest that at least one missile caused significant damage to industrial infrastructure, sparking fires and disrupting transportation. Casualty figures remain unclear, but eyewitnesses described scenes of chaos as emergency crews rushed to extinguish fires and rescue civilians trapped in damaged buildings. Iranian state media, on the other hand, portrayed the strike as a resounding success, emphasizing the psychological impact on Israeli society. Iranian outlets broadcast footage of celebrations in Tehran, with crowds chanting slogans in support of the attack. International reactions. The global response has been swift and divided. The United States immediately condemned Iran's actions, pledging unwavering support for Israel and warning Tehran of severe consequences if attacks continue. U.S. warships stationed in the Mediterranean have reportedly been placed on high alert. Russia and China called for restraint, though both nations criticized Western policies for fueling tensions in the region. Moscow, in particular, has expressed concern that the escalation could derail its own fragile influence in Syria. European Union leaders issued a joint statement urging both sides to step back from the brink of war, warning that any further escalation would endanger global energy markets and humanitarian stability. Meanwhile, Arab nations are watching cautiously. Some Gulf states privately welcomed the strike as a message to Israel, while others fear that a regional war could destabilize their own fragile security environments. The Haifa threat. Iran's explicit mention of Haifa as the next potential target has caused widespread alarm. Haifa, located in northern Israel, is not only a major port city but also home to critical industrial and energy infrastructure. An attack on Haifa could cripple Israel's economy and trigger a much broader military response. Israeli defense officials have already strengthened military deployments in the north, preparing for the possibility of simultaneous threats from Hezbollah in Lebanon and Iranian-backed militias in Syria. The specter of a multi-front war now looms larger than ever. Possible Israeli response. Israel's prime minister convened an emergency cabinet meeting in Tel Aviv, where military leaders presented options for retaliation. While details remain classified, Israeli media speculate that potential responses could include 1. Direct strikes on Iranian territory, a move that would mark the first open war between the two countries. 2. Targeted operations against Iranian proxies in Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. 3. Cyber warfare campaigns aimed at crippling Iranian infrastructure. However, Israeli officials face a dilemma: a large-scale retaliation risks dragging the entire region into chaos, but failure to respond decisively could embolden Iran and its allies. What this means for the region. The latest escalation underscores the fragility of the Middle East and the ease with which conflicts can spiral out of control. For years, Israel and Iran have fought a shadow war through proxies, cyber attacks, and limited airstrikes. The Tel Aviv missile strike signals a dangerous departure from indirect conflict to direct confrontation. Experts warn that if diplomacy does not intervene, the region could slide into a prolonged and devastating war, one that draws in major powers and destabilizes global security. With oil prices already surging in the aftermath of the attack, the economic ripple effects are being felt worldwide. Voices from the ground. Ordinary citizens in Tel Aviv expressed shock and anger after the strike. "We've always lived with sirens and rockets from Gaza, but hypersonic missiles from Iran? That's a whole different reality," one resident told local reporters. In Tehran, however, the mood was markedly different. Supporters of the Revolutionary Guard celebrated the strike as a historic message of defiance against what they view as Israeli aggression. The contrasting narratives highlight the deep divisions fueling the conflict. Conclusion. The hypersonic missile strike on Tel Aviv represents a turning point in Middle Eastern geopolitics. Whether it leads to an all-out war or forces a new round of international diplomacy remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the stakes have never been higher. As Iran threatens to target Haifa and Israel weighs its options for retaliation, the world is holding its breath, aware that the next move could determine the future of peace or war in the Middle East.